Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of an interesting pen, and that's this little guy here, the Tactile Turn Mover. The mover is, well, it's by Tactile Turn. Wow, this is redundant. But nonetheless, Tactile Turn got their start on Kickstarter, and now a lot of people are really in love with their gear. And, so they make two varieties of a pen shaped like this. There's the mover, which is this guy, a little bigger, and the shaker, which is a little smaller and takes a different set of refills. To give you a sense of the size, here is a Bic little pen. Here is your Prometheus Writes Alpha pen. And here is your Spyderco Delica for size comparison. And so you can see that it's just a basic, moderately sized pen, which is in a lot of ways a very nice thing. And then finally, I'd like to thank my buddy Dan for sending this along, because I wouldn't have had a chance to review one of these guys otherwise. So thank you very much, Dan, for sending this along. All right, let's go ahead and jump into the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, good. There's a lot of good here. The action is nice. And it's also quiet. It's not as clicky. You don't get that kind of thing. This is a lot easier in a meeting to deal with. And so that's a good thing. It's very nicely machined. You can see here, it looks like the pen should take apart right here. But actually, when you start to twist, a gap opens up in the middle that's really hard to see when you're not actually twisting on it, which is kind of a nice thing. And it goes right away again when you finish twisting things shut. And that's a sign of really nice machining. The tolerance there is very nice. The gap is almost invisible. It's got a very nice clip on it, too. I think it's a titanium, might be a steel, but nonetheless, it works very nicely, keeps the pen in there. And in terms of cartridges, it takes the Pilot G2 cartridge, which is a really well-known sort of cartridge, good gel writer, and a very nice cartridge to write with. And it can also be adapted to take the Montblanc Fineliner refill or Rollerball refill, and I'm a big fan of the Montblanc. All you really need to do is you grind the top off a little bit here and then put something in that hole, because you don't want the plunger to fall into it. Actually, let's just take a second and do a quick disassembly here. A complete disassembly of this pen, and that's always a good thing to see. Now we just keep things from rolling off the damn table. Wow. I am just not a skilled man at this. Bear with me for a second here, people. So there is your little plunger guy. Pops up and down, and this little end is what gets stuck in the very gap in the back of your Montblanc refill, unless you fill it with a piece of paper like I have there. So that's good to know. And then your clip, and then the rest of your body. So this is a complete disassembly. There's not all that many parts here. And as you can see, none of these parts are plastic at all. It's very nicely constructed in that way. It's going to last forever. I mentioned earlier, and I'll say this as I'm putting this back together, that there are multiple sizes of this. This guy is called the mover, but there's also the shaker, which is a slightly smaller one that takes a different kind of refill. So if you're not a big fan of the G2 or the Montblanc refills, this is a good approach. You can always grab the smaller version. And in a lot of ways, the smaller size might be nice. But you can see that it goes together nicely, although I'm struggling because I'm just not a particularly skilled human being. Here we go. Come on, you little bastard. Get in there. There we are. And the pocket clip, you can see, slots into a nice little hole here. So once that pops in, there we go. Oh, damn it. Perfect. Okay, it's reassembled, and I just do not look very good on camera now, do I? But moving on. So that's good. And then finally, the price is right. These are looking at about $70, which is just fine for a nice solid hunk of brass as a pen. So it's got a good action. It's nicely machined. It takes good cartridges, the G2 or the Montblanc for that matter. It is all metal construction, and the price is good. Let's go on ahead and jump onto the bad. Okay, the bad. Couple of issues. First off, the spring inside of this, you saw it over here, a little tiny spring, is not captive. And that means that if you take this apart in an area where, like you're trying to change the refill in your car or something, that rolls onto something, you're kind of hosed. And so I'm not a big fan of non-captive springs in pens. And I tend to be somebody who takes pens apart in meetings and things like that, and that can get awkward quickly. Probably something I shouldn't do, but hey, whatever. The tip of this is open, and that's kind of the nature of the beast with a clicky pen, but you can actually see, I hope, that the refill is hovering just right below the tip, and so it's to the extent where if you take your fingertip and press against there, you're going to get a little dot of ink on there. That doesn't mean a whole lot. It means that your refill is going to collect some lint, and that if you're using like a fine liner or a markery kind of refill in this, it's going to go dry a lot quicker than it would in a pen that's got an actual sealing cap on it. So that's something you got to keep in mind there. It is a clicky pen, and that's got some weaknesses, because, well, first and foremost, there's no lockout to it. So it works fine if you put it, say, in a shirt pocket or something like that, where it can just hang like this. But if you're trying to put it in your jeans pocket, for instance, there's no lockout. It's just going to click, and it's going to click, and it's going to click. And there we go. And there's nothing you can really do to prevent that. So it doesn't work well in a cargo pocket or something, unlike a pen that actually has a cap on it where the top is there. The other issue is that the clip level is here, and you've got a whole bunch sticking out above the clip. So even in a shirt pocket, if there's a flap that folds over, this is going to be really awkward, as opposed to a pen where the clip is at the very, very top of it. So, that's a little bit less than ideal. The other thing is that I've noticed that there's occasionally some issues where if you hit the click in the wrong way, it has some trouble kind of unclicking. You click it, there we go, and it sticks at that far down level, and there. So, that's not perfect. Maybe that's just this particular guy. This is used. I don't know if it's been abused, but I don't suspect so. But it's a little less reliable than I'd like it to be in that particular way. Also, other bad stuff. The pen is a little bit on the heavy side. It's pretty up there. It's not that it's unwritable by any stretch of the imagination, but here we go. I got our little scale here. And this guy weighs in at 2.1 ounces, as opposed to your Prometheus Alpha and nickel is 1.1, and your titanium is at 1.6, and for comparison, your little Bic pen is 0.1. So this is a heavy pen. And, I can write with it during an entire meeting. That's not a problem. The balance is maybe a little high, but it's pretty decent, all told. The balance is good. I don't have a big issue with it, but it is heavy. And in bronze, it's very, very heavy. I found myself missing titanium or a lighter weight metal for this. So there's your bad. The spring can go flying everywhere. The tip is open, which can dry out some refills. The clicky is not ideal for cargo pockets and a lot of kinds of EDC, where this might get bumped. And then also, it's a little unreliable in terms of clicking. It does need to rotate in an interesting way there for that to work. And then it's just a little bit heavy. Those are the bad things. The ugly is actually just one thing, and that's the fact that this does patina. When I got it, it was pretty heavily patinaed, and it kind of turns into a very dull greenish brown. And that's the nature of bronze. But it's not a huge... it's not terribly attractive, so you do need to keep on polishing this in order for it to continue looking good. So there's your ugly, and it's not really that ugly. It's just the nature of bronze. It's a little bit of an ugly patina. So what's the final verdict here on your Tactile Turn mover? Honestly, it's a nice pen. There's not a whole lot to complain about here. It writes very nicely. It feels good in the hand. And, the mechanism is good, and it's built very nicely. But it's just not as nice for me for EDC as some of the other options, because it is fairly heavy. It's also fairly long in the grand scheme of things. It's not, it's not super long, but compared to what I'm normally carrying, it does have a good deal more length to it. It is clicky, which means that it's fairly easy for this to click in your pocket, and then your refill is writing on the inside of your pants. It is open-tipped, which makes it a little bit less ideal for rollerball or fine liner refilling because, well, you run the possibility of it running out, getting dried out. And at the end of the day, I carried this for a fair amount of time, and I just never quite bonded with it. And every time I went back and I put my Prometheus back in my pocket, I was just happier for it. And so that's kind of where I land on it, is that it's not a bad pen in any way, shape, or form, but as an EDC pen, as something that's supposed to be durable and functional and work with you on an everyday basis, I do like this design a little bit more for me. But that said, there's a big price difference here. $70 versus, in this case, $240, or for the Electro Nickel, $140. That's a huge price jump, and I don't know... If I hadn't already purchased this, I might be happy here. So, there you go. It's a great pen. I'm not going to go so far as to call it a gem for everyday carry use. It's a great pen otherwise. And but you may love it, and if you love the design, you're going to love it. So, that's the Tactile Turn mover. I hope this has been helpful to you, and I hope I did the right, get it, writing thing here by reviewing this. All right, that was bad. I'm going to leave now. Have a nice day. Bye.